as far as like short term versus MTR, how do you like to start that conversation?
So short term is really commonly known, right? It's like Airbnb. It's, you know, it's like really profitable, right? I think a lot of people, it's a great way to maximize your property value, and I love it. I mean, if you're in a destination area, like by all means, it's great. It's, you know, it's great for cash flow. What I don't like about it is like there's constant turnover. You're constantly restocking things. You're constantly like worrying about your last review. You know, guests are, I think, I mean, they're there for vacation, right? They want to have a good time. They want everything to be perfect. And if there's maybe some ants showed up because the weather changed, right? They're going to complain about that, or they're just a little more high maintenance, I feel like. And I mean, I love creating the experience, but that's the part when I had Airbnb's STRs, it was just like constant maintenance. Even though I had a team, I was always kind of fussing over every turnover, felt like this, like, is it ready for people? And then there were guest questions, and you kind of, you have to be really on it, right? It's not like a set it up and coast. So I think the pros are, right, it's super profitable. You can stay in them, right, which I think is a nice benefit. It's more flexible. I think your occupancy rate is less, but you're charging a higher nightly rate. And it's location, right? If you're in a great location, they're awesome, right? If you're destination, but say you're in the middle, like I'm in North Portland, it's not exactly a destination. People are like, oh, I'm going to, you know, come to St. John's and book a vacation. It's more like friends visiting family. So that's, I think, the benefits. And what I like about the midterm strategy is it's just a lot less work, right? You're usually getting guests for like, you know, ideally like 3 months, sometimes 6 months. You're turning it over a lot less. You're still like maximizing your income. You can charge a premium for rent versus unfurnished, but you're just like turning it over every 3 months. You go over there versus like every 2 days going over there and fussing over the pillows and the welcome baskets and all of that. And so I think it's kind of made me a little lazy, because I didn't like the constant turnover, and I like getting a guest in and kind of coasting and not worrying about that again. Like there's a spot on the sheet, or you're at a coffee, or just, you know, it's constantly spending money on restocking things and the communication. So again, a little less profitable, but I think it's a great kind of middle ground if you want to maximize your kind of rental income, especially now. Making a single family cash flow is not easy, right? You know, it's just hard to make it work. With a midterm, you can really maximize your cash flow. So, and again, just to kind of level set, it's usually at least a 30-day stay, right? And then you're getting into to a midterm. And also you're avoiding kind of the STR regulations, which can be particular, right? So you're just kind of avoiding that all the politics of short-term rentals and all the restrictions.
Yeah, no, 100%. All the things you were saying gave me all the feels of like, yep, that hurts. Yep, I could see where that's a benefit, because I'm coming from both of the other ends, right? Long-term property management to start my career, and then put myself into investing into and managing short-term rentals. So definitely the difference, because in the long-term game, we had some corporate housing contracts set up, so I understood a little bit of what that looked like, right? Our cleaners on staff had to come over to that unit a little bit more. But you know, when I looked at the balance sheet and the P&L statement, I was like, oh, that unit gets a really good amount. And right now, one of the short-term rentals that we manage, even we got a request from a relocation consultant, and it was over $21,000 for 98 days, right? And so that was a $213 a night, zero vacancy, you know, setup, is how I look at it, being so short-term focused. It's like, even in that frame of mind where you're still running it like a short-term rental, it's like, wow, that is quite the you know, vacation stay they're booking. Right. Like,
right.
I hope they have a great like 3-month experience here.
Totally.
But no, that's a really cool way to look at it, because how I've been playing it is a fun way to do it with a home. Like, you already have this pre-furnished asset, right? Like, and that right there is really hard. Like, that's pretty cost intensive any way you look at it. Like, every investor understands that. Like, they're like, okay, I can get this deal with other people's money, you know, here, but I still have to furnish this thing. And this investor is not going to go to IKEA and shell out like $7 grand. He's going to tell me to go do it. He's probably not going to give me money until I tell him I can go do it. Right.
Yeah, totally.
And for me, it depends on the market, but in Oregon, you know, where we're located, that the season of winter is definitely slower for short terms, right? So if we can get more of those 3-month, 6-month stays in the winter and offset some of the what would be vacancy with just consistency, then we still have the same asset and we can transition to offering it back for a weekend at a higher margin rate.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm personally looking at. I still see the definite value in just being only midterm rental focused, because you know, you have corporate housing, you have travel nurses, you have internships, then you even have flooded houses, burned houses, broken something, car rammed into a house, whatever really happens in real life. Yeah.
No, I think the hybrid, right? Yeah, it's totally a hybrid. You don't have, it's not one or the other, like maximize it, right? The dead months do midterm, and then you can up your game for the STRs for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of like what I just named, like the midterm sources, what has been your favorite, or like maybe your go-to, or the best
for like
capital flowing? Yeah, for leads, or just like style of tenant even.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's pretty ubiquitous. Furnish Finder, right? They're kind of there's some upstarts I've been following, but I don't think they really have that much market share. So I think Furnish Finder is kind of like, that's the one place, right? Even to test out, I think Furnish Finder, Facebook, I kind of throw it out everywhere. Like all the rental sites will syndicate. So I love Zillow too, and apartments.com. But so I Furnish Finder, which is mostly nurses, right? I get pretty good. It's about 85% nurses, I would say. So I do love that. And they book direct, right? It's not a booking platform. It's more just like a listing platform. And then as far as properties, I mean, you can make anything work as a midterm, but I found like really like optimizing like 1 bedroom, 1 bath, right? That's not going to make a great I mean, it can be a long-term rental, but your rent's going to be not so hot. And most people want like a 3.2 or a 3.1, but I found in the smaller spaces, like I have one that's like 350 square feet, which is really cozy. But if you're there for 3 months, it's totally fine, right? I've got a washer dryer, has a full kitchen. So I think I love maximizing smaller spaces that wouldn't necessarily make a great long-term rental because they're kind of small, right? And you probably want more space. So that's what I've found in my experience, is a smaller, like a 1.1 is not like, you're like, oh yay, that's a great investment normally. But like, well, that's just, the numbers don't work, right? So yeah, that's what I'd say. Smaller spaces, usually square footage, and Furnish Finder is a great way to advertise.
I never thought about the smaller space being more of the lean towards midterm rental. So if you pick up maybe like a boutique hotel or motel type situation, all of the bigger bedrooms can be by the night, or might just perform better by the night, whereas your other ones, your smaller studios and ones, you could have them focused to midterm. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because I've tested it. I have a 3.2, and that one was more of like a roommate situation, and then you get into the higher numbers, right? But if you're like in the 2,000, 2,500 range, that's doable for a 1 person, right? Because you start getting bigger, you have to charge more, and it's almost like you really have to weigh it. So yeah, it's definitely been there. They usually rent faster than the bigger places, and most people are traveling 1 to 2 people. So yeah, it's kind of a way to max. And that's kind of why the last one I did, I converted, because it was like pretty small, and I'm like, I bet I could maximize the rent. And I do this strategy where I call it my A/B test. I think I talked to you about this. I'll digitally like stage the place, I'll put it up for kind of like the price, and then I kind of test the market, and then that tells me, hey, is it worth the investment and the time of furnishing? Because it's no small task, right? It's definitely an endeavor. And so I like to kind of test it, and then I know like, hey, yeah, it's worth and then once I get someone on a lease or that's really interested, then I go ahead and furnish it. But I kind of wait until I know there's a market and it's worth it, because if it's similar to long term, it's like, even though it's fun to furnish, you got to look at the numbers, right, and make sure it pencils. So
yeah, no, that's really interesting. That's really cool. I didn't know that you tested the market all the way like that. That's really cool.
I call it my A/B test, and then I put it out unfurnished, and I kind of see what the interest is. And most people are like, they can kind of tell it's not really furnished, but I'm really upfront, like, hey, this is virtually staged. Like, I can show you properties I've actually furnished, and I've rented quite a few places with that kind of test. And then I just know, because it's you know, it's an upfront cost, and it just, you know, it takes away from your profit when you're furnishing a place. So yeah, I like that strategy.
That's really cool, because what I do is funny. It's similar, but it's for different reasons. So I underwrite every property for a short-term rental and a long-term rental. It's my oh snap, like regulations popped me in the face, and I want to at least be okay. Like, I don't want to put all this money and time into something that could hurt me. I want it to be like a safe play here. So I underwrite for the long term, and then I A/B test the market just for the long term. But now I might as well add the ABC in there and see both, right? Like might as while I'm already posting the long term.
Right.
Copy paste, add some virtual furniture version of it. And yeah, that's a cool way to test a short-term market, right? You cover your bases pretty well.
I totally love it. The ABC test. The
ABC test, yeah. See what it would rent on all three levels and go, okay.
Right, because then the numbers, like, I mean, I go by gut, but it's data, right? It's just like, okay, this is, and if long-term and, you know, midterm are close, or STRs like way heads about, then then go with that. Then, you know, and you're not kind of like, because you don't want to go down the route of like furnishing it and you're like, oh wow, the STR number is like, my occupancy rate is super low and it's super saturated. So yeah. So when you're testing STRs, are you just putting on Airbnb, or how do you test that midterm or the short-term kind of market?
Yeah, I'm just doing AirDNA analysis for now, and I have the premium versions kind of in the pockets over around here, and then I use the free data that they have, just clear the cache and cookies, and they give you the free test and every first pull up. Fun fact for AirDNA. Please don't take away that feature also. But I do that, and then I'll just actually post like a long-term Facebook marketplace or Zillow, whatever a free platform I can do to try and get some form of long-term lead. And as long as that shakes out to $1 profit, that's all I'm looking for there. My goal is to be short-term rental focused for the most part, mix in that mid-term rentals when it makes sense. But the long-term really for me is like, oh crap, like at least I need to make $1 per month, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's really smart, because I think, I mean, like COVID happened, right? And everyone had to change strategies really fast, right? So I think it's good knowing
a lot of new habits formed, right?
What was that?
A lot of new habits formed, right?
Totally. And knowing that you can cover your kind of basic expenses, right? If you go long term, I think that's super smart. I think some people just assume they're going to kill it in the STR and have this great nightly rate and occupancy, but things can change really fast. So I love being kind of conservative, like here's the basics and here's like the ideal scenario, right?
Right. And I think a lot of people are, at least that are already investing that way, are comfortable with the risk, but they probably still are like, have a little bit of worry, right? And then for me, this is that way to tell myself, you know what, remember, at least you found out at that time it could profit you $100 a month in the worst case, or $200.
Totally.
Right? So that's a good peace of mind to take with you day to day.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would know when I have a property under contract, I'll put it out there, because I'll test like, hey, what can I get for, you know, within reason, right? Then I can kind of like pull the levers on price before I'm like, you know, I don't even own it yet, so I can kind of get that right number and get people in there. So as soon as we close, you know, I've got tenants. So yeah, testing. I think people are kind of afraid to do that. I think I'm like, you can test it. You don't have to like rent it to someone. Just test your market, see what responses you get. The market will speak, right? I think that's
you're not obliged to sell anything that you post in the open market, right?
Yeah,
like that's sure. But I think a lot of people don't think like that. They might, some people assume that maybe you can't do that, like, hey, no, you posted it on here, then it has a price, and they feel like if they bought something they would be upset and cause a fuss, so they tell themselves, that's illegal. I can't do that.
Right. Totally. Yeah. No, you can't. And I think the other thing, I think landlords get a bad rap, but you don't want to put something up and go a lot of interest and then raise the price. I think lowering the price is fine, but I like to kind of test price out too, and then I can always back off. But I like, that's kind of like, I'll come up with a number, like, I wonder if I could get this. you know, I mean, let's, you know, I keep very nice high-end rental. I mean, I really maintain them, so I'm not trying to be a slumlord, but I mean, it's expensive, right? So you have to, it has to be profitable. But yeah, sometimes I like to just throw something out there and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious. Have you noticed any dip in like the midterm, you know, interest flow because of this like market correction plus post-COVID era?
You know, it's funny, just really like a micro trend. Like at the beginning of the summer, I had a couple of turnovers and my phone was blowing up. People would call me back and say, "You sure you don't have any openings? Like, you sound so nice." Like, no, they're all booked. And then I had a couple openings in the fall, and it was a really different scenario. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if it's seasonal, but yeah, a little bit less demand. I had to lower my prices a little bit. But that's the other thing. Like the other thing I like with STR or midterm, right? You can adjust your prices in the winter, and then in the summer or the spring, right? When there's more demand, you can, it's not forever versus like a year lease, right? You're pretty much locked in. There's no like wiggle room there. So yeah.
And I guess too, it could work in the reverse direction to offset some of your midterm vacancy to have it on a short-term site, right? Is that a strategy you would employ?
You know, I used to pride myself on like 0 vacancy, which I probably should have. And then recently I had some gaps. I'm like, you know what? I just threw it back up on Airbnb, and yeah, I got like a couple 4-night stays, which was great, right? I mean, it was little bit of turnover, but yeah, I had these like weird gaps that I'm like, oh yeah, so you definitely can do that. And oftentimes like nurses have these contracts that will come in like the 13th of the month. They're not like on the 1st and the 30th. It's like kind of mid-month, so you sometimes have these gaps. So I think it's a great, yeah, I love mixing things up, right? You're not set with one, like long-term, you're pretty much down that road. But when you go into furnishing, and then you can even stay there, right? Sometimes I'll take my daughter and we'll like camp out at one of our rentals.
Oh yeah.
That's the
yeah. Most of the clients that we work with, it's like their added benefit, not sometimes they have multiple, but some houses like they like to frequent a lot. It's not enough to warrant not putting it on Airbnb and kind of letting it just collect dust. Yeah, but it's like they go 2 to 3 weeks out of the year, and now it's like a completely different frame of mind for them. It's like instead of that second home sunken cost, right, that there's not that many write-offs for a second home for investment property, yeah, but for second home, no. So for them, it's like, oh, now it's a business, and I stayed here for 4 days and we made $600 still. I usually make $1,600, but now I had free stay in that in a place that I want to visit plus $600 out of that asset. And it's like a completely different mind shift that they love. Like we just had one in Hillsborough that stayed for a full week and they still made $700 in cash flow that month. And I was like, hey. And they were used to paying like McMinimans or a hotel, a Best Western, for their stay, and they'd usually pay the $800, $900 for their one room for the week.
Right? Yeah. And then you're just in a room.
You're doing it this way, and they're like, whoa.
And then all those supplies, right? You know, air quotes that you need for your rentals are like, it's really handy. And then you kind of stay there and you can see what's missing or what you can improve. Yeah, no, I think I love that model. It's just so much, because when do you ever stay in your unfurnished long-term house? Like you're gonna go put an air mattress down and camp out. Like it's just, it's not the same. So yeah.
Right. It doesn't happen as much. Yeah. What I've been thinking we need to do more, me and my partner, we need to go check out some other Airbnbs a little more. I haven't done enough of that. I haven't done enough scouting. I've stayed at mine a few times and a couple Airbnbs, but I feel like I need to do some more scouting on some places, because every time I've only done 2 or 3, but every time I pick up something, I'm like,
right.
That's an interesting way to solve that, or to avoid what I know that question was, like why they did that. I know what that question looks like from a concerned person, right?
Yeah.
That's smart.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. I think quite a while back I went to one and there was like an owner's closet. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. All the supplies are like in an owner's closet. It was really marked. It was just, and no one's like getting into your stuff. Yeah, no, and you can kind of, and then sometimes I think, oh, I'm not doing so bad, right? Like you see some places, but yeah, no.
Yeah, sometimes it's reassurance. I'm like, oh, well, good thing we're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Oh,
good intel.
that's funny. Well, all things considered, I know you have, a pretty good sized portfolio, but where are you looking to go? Like, where are your goals with real estate? Is there specific real estate business numbers that you're looking to hit? And is it more of a lifestyle looking to achieve? A little hybrid of both, maybe?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I definitely want to grow. I'm still want to grow with men. I think, I like investing in the market that I know, Portland, right? Good and bad, right? I've just figured out how to navigate. I like staying local. I think the next level for me is like small to medium, like multifamily, right? And I love that the model of like half midterm, half long term. You just cover your bases. And I feel like I love this midterm. I kind of have it down. Like the last place I furnished it in 3 days. I love the experience part of it. So definitely looking to kind of get into more real estate with owner financing, hopefully be more creative with it. But I like the model of some long-term, some midterm. That way, when you have a vacancy, you kind of still have your cash flow. I really like that hybrid. So
tis the season for seller carry finance deals to be had.
So exciting.
Yes, I see them. I was saying it 4 or 5 months ago, and there wasn't much like, interest and like, oh, you're onto something. And now it's like everyone's like, oh, I got to do a seller carry, or hey, are you interested in making this seller carry? And now I'm seeing people are getting banks to get involved in some of these seller carry deals where the seller will carry 80%, and because of that, the bank will underwrite at a 2 or 3% interest, because it is not against the asset, because they're already doing a lot of 80% LTV home equity lines. So for them, it's more so like that, and they can look at it more like a 401k or a HELOC and do it at 2 to 3% style. And because it's seller carry, there's absolutely no risks to their borrower. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it's and I learned this from a guy in Maryland who has 26 stores, and because he did a deal just like that now. And apparently it was already a thing previous too, and in other similar types of markets. But keep that in mind. If a seller is willing to do like 80%, you can play different games. And he broke it down. He only had to put 5% down, and the loan was on 20% of the rest of the purchase price. So 15%, 2 to 3%. And it was a 7 with a balloon, and I was like, oh my goodness. So you got it off your record, like, right, seller carry, but you got this super low interest refi at any time with like a balloon to make it whatever super low payment you want it to be, right, for just that rest of the 15%, and you only had to put 5 down. That, because usually you have to put more down, right, in a seller carry deal.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. No, definitely skin in the game, right? Yeah. No, there's so many creative
but
things.
There's still the skin in the game with this, because the bank is involved, and they know the bank's involved. So now it's the escrow and another bank that they owe. Yeah. And the seller still gets that upfront 20%.
Yeah. I've never heard that before. That's very creative.
Yeah. I was like, this is sensational. So you just have to do a little bit with the offer negotiation in terms of like the percentages that you want to be carried, and how what it needs to look like closing, and then just look for credit unions or banks that are open to doing that. I mean, any hard money lender is going to be very interested in this, but there are credit unions and banks that will do this too, so might as well use some of them.
Yeah, some more. Yeah, I mean, I love hard money, but it's a short term, right? You can't make a long term numbers work. Like, yeah, I love how creative real estate is. I mean, I feel like I've heard of every single strategy, and then I'll hear something else like, that's crazy. I've never heard of that.
That one had me think and stop for a while. I was like, no way I can like facilitate my own seller carry deal 5% down. No way.
Yeah, right.
At 2 to 3% in today's market. What?
Right? Oh, that is unheard of. Oh my God. The rates are so high.
Yeah. I'm excited though. I'm excited. There's going to be a good shift in what I think is pent up stagflation under the market, underneath the homes that's going on right now. Like, we haven't seen this crazy dip in the price on the homes despite the interest rates going crazy the other way. The dip hasn't correlated.
It hasn't caught up.
Yeah, it hasn't caught up, and that's because there's real value still appreciating underneath, right? There's real appreciation going on that's getting hidden by this like stagflation period we're going through. So we're gonna hit a number that finally drops the market, or whatever that bottom is going to look like. It probably won't be too bottomed, but we'll hit 8 or 9 or 10% interest, and it's kind of like, in the general public will go, whoa, that's insane, like that's unsustainable, that's crazy. And like, and there'll be complaints, we can't afford homes, like people need to be able to get into their first home, this is crazy. And that'll be the best time to buy. And then once it goes down to 7 or 6%, or especially 5% again, you're going to get the same time frame of appreciation that you would like just normally owning the home, plus all this pent up stagflation that now, once the mortgage rates are 4 or 5% again, the buying power is going to be so huge that now the prices are going to jump back, right? So they jump down because there's that fear at 10%, but
yeah,
there's going to be a huge jump up because we're already building into it now, right?
Yeah.
Like there's already a little bit of value that's like kind of coming underneath, unless of course they figure out like home building. That'd change the game a little bit for my thesis. If they can speed up home building and make like a home in 2 weeks instead of the 4 month, previous, or a month from 4 months, maybe it changes a little bit. But I'm hoping that we get to 10% because it'll be an easy purchase at a low rate. I can get creative with seller carry stuff and then give myself 5 to 7 years to see what the market goes back to. And if we just get back to 5%, man, oh man, like I'm having a good time.
I know. There's so many. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I mean, it's just the market needs a correction, so it's necessary. But yeah, it's a fun time. Lots of opportunity.
Yeah. If you're playing it the right way, I think flippers. I'm nervous for some flippers out in the market right now. I don't know why you would want to flip right now.
Our last flip, we had it under contract a few months ago, and we had to get tenants out, and then the market just hugely shifted. So we ended up rehabbing it, and then we had it listed, and we just weren't getting the price. So now we're renting it. We just completely changed strategies. It was just like, all right, let's get a renter in there. We have our holding costs aren't too bad. And so, and the reason we can is because we had to under carry, right? So we have that flexibility to rent it versus a hard money loan. That's really hard to not be underwater on rental. So yeah, we renting.
A couple of lessons there for people. Don't do the hard money all the time, or understand the risk of hard money in the current market. Right? Like maybe it's one of your 7 that you're doing, but if you're just doing one flip, maybe not hard money for that one flip. Maybe if 7, you can have 1 of 7, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to have screaming deals, right? I think there's still a market, but if the numbers, I mean, your margins have to be crazy good, right, to take the risk on to flip right now. I mean, flipping is, I love the design part, but it's almost, I mean, it's all calculated, right? You run your numbers, but you're kind of basing it on this ARV that could change on a dime, and I mean, I love risk, right? I'm like very comfortable with it, but flipping is it's tricky unless you're in a really, it's very profitable. It can be, but it can also go south really fast too, right? That gamble. So that's why I like buy and hold. I can control it more. I can like lower my rent. I can furnish it. You have all these levers versus just a flip. You're like, all right, let's lower the price, right? It's kind of like,
right. Yeah. In the very worst case, they could all be a long-term rental tomorrow if need be. Right? Yeah.
Totally. We tried the lease option strategy, had a ton of interest, but no bites. So we just went with traditional rental, but I was really trying to do a lease option. I'm like, this could work. Option fee, buy it a year down the road. It was fun to try out. I like trying out strategies.
Yeah. It's a very specific person that fits that. It's not an investor, and it's not a home, like too struggling of a person that can't get a first time. It's like someone that's just a year or two early on their home buying process.
Right. Or like they're working on their credit, or they need more job history, or yeah, I mean, it just buys you that time to get to live in the house before you buy it. And it's a really like win-win for everyone if someone has that option money, right? They get to live in the house. As a landlord, the tenant buyers, they're making all the repairs. So I was like super excited to try it out. Had someone on the hook. I ran them through the mortgage broker. He's like, yeah, they're qualified. They will be, right. They had the option fee and they had to back out. But yeah, it was close. But, yeah, I've got a great list now. I did a carrot site and I've got like a bonkers leads. They're not all qualified, but I'm building a list for the next one. So hopefully I'll get to connect again.
Yeah, no, I have a similar long-term goal too right now with the short-term space. I really want to get like a little community in one spot, right? A bunch of different listings in that same area.
Yeah.
I think midterm and short-term makes it even easy. I think if it was a more than 10 units, I would definitely want to do it that way. In my head, I'm like, where can I find a spot that already has a main house and something that can be converted on the land with space to add 2 more tiny homes and have a little community like that. But if the opportunity arose for like the 8 to 20 range, I think the best way to go about it would be that midterm for maybe 50, 60, 70% of the stays, and then kind of the unique quirky units, make them the short-term rentals, right?
Totally. Yeah, and then you get that profit and the stability. And yeah, no, I think the hybrid is really, before I knew that midterm was like the term, like a couple of years ago, because I kind of fell into, I was calling it a hybrid model. So it wasn't STR, it wasn't long term. So yeah, no, I think you can get really creative with it. And then I think also midterms, your vacancy is just, in my experience, a lot less, right? So it's not as up and down. It's a little more consistent than an STR, at least what my experience was. Just so you can kind of know what you're getting every month a little more.
Yeah, it's definitely been more consistent from what I've seen too. I still lean it because I see an opportunity. Like you said, there's definitely a lot of work that goes involved on the short-term side. So if someone's willing to focus on that work, for most of their day, or all their day, and build a team around it, there's opportunity, because people like yourself that would rather focus on the long or the mid or none of it, and have a long-term person, a mid-term person, and a short-term person that they talk to. But there's a lot of work in it, but at least I think equitable money in it right back. It's
definitely.
not like
I mean, to your point too, there's so many tools out there, and you just need a core team, right? A cleaner. And I mean, you can automate, I feel like, a lot of the short-term stuff. There's still work, right? But it's way different than it used, at least even a couple of years ago, from my experience, from what I've seen, all the platforms out there. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of new technology that makes it much more scalable than what it could have been a couple years ago, even with just some door locks and software and stuff like that. Yeah.
Like my favorite, I'm a super techie. I'm obsessed with like the August smart lock. I mean, it's just like magic. You can open it remotely. You can use a key. You have a keypad, self check-in. You're not like changing your lockbox code every month. It's like so
the cleaners have their own code. The landscaper has their code. Guests get a random new code every time. Nice.
So nice. Yeah. No, when I first Airbnb, we had a lockbox, and my co-host was like, we should probably change that code because it's been the same for like 5 months. Then it gets all rusty and wet, and you're in there trying to get the numbers to line up. Yeah. No, smart stuff I'm a huge fan of. It just streamlines it. Yeah, for sure. Do you do any direct bookings with your STRs, or is it all like on the platforms?
So we don't have any direct booking portal set up yet, but we're building it on the back end as we speak. So what we do right now is we have a QR code in all of our units. So if someone leaves us a positive Google review for our business, not just our Airbnb, right?
Yeah,
right.
QR.
So for our business, yeah, please do. It works. Then we give them $10 off a night, which is so nominal to us, but to them it could be anywhere from 10 to 50, $100, and that gets reimbursed and credited live when we see the review come through and they message us. and then they have 40 more bucks to go do whatever. So it's just like they're chilling around, they look at this QR code and they're like, oh, easy choice, like 2 minutes for 40 bucks. I'm gonna do that. And then we get a whole new source of reviews that didn't exist, but are
getting people to leave reviews, I feel like it's 50-50. I do that, but it's 50. And I think especially if you get them when they just check in and it's like they're starting their experience, maybe more likely to be like, yeah, this is great, it's clean, it's, you know, all the versus at the end when they're just like done. That's a good idea.
Yeah, but once we launch the direct booking part of our page, then it will be because it's already collecting their info, then there'll be a follow-up email kind of right after they leave, letting them know that if they come back and direct book, they're going to get 5% off. And then they'll also be in our system just long-term until they unsubscribe and likely receive like a quarterly email from us. We've only sent the one, right? But the review side definitely is showing that we're going to get some traction with it for sure. So because we're already getting a lot of this.
Direct book with the reviews, where are they going to reviews going to go to your website, or they go to the platform? Because there's so many places for reviews, right? I usually send them to Google, but I'm like, I don't know, sometimes I wonder where's the best.
We started sending them to just Google, but now we're using a tool that collects the info and then pushes to Google and Facebook at the same time.
Oh, what's that tool? That sounds awesome.
Podium.
Oh, that's okay. I've heard of that. Okay, that's great.
They're kind of like an SMS website chat tool, but the reviews function has that, and it's the coolest thing. I haven't seen any other like review tool that pushes to multiple places, or to multiple places of that quality. Like Google and Facebook, I would say, are two really good sources to have reviews on. So yeah, Podium.
Yeah, because I struggle with that, because I don't want to sound like, hey, review me on Facebook and then on Furnished Friend or on Google. It's like no one's going to do that. So I've been defaulting to Google, but I love that idea that it gets pushed out, you know, because then you just maximize that, and it's that social proof. I read some stat or heard it's like 94% of people go by like reviews and social proof. So that's a good idea. And then we're looking at that.
Well, and they still, if you have it the way we set it up, that's its own little side game thing that's there, and then they typically will also, because of that experience, have a better frame of mind of us, the host, when they get the Airbnb requests to review, because that's more of a formality and less of a, oh hey, I'm gonna give them a good review. It's like, no, Airbnb pushes it in a sense where it's like, hey, please like give the review of your experience so we can be a better platform and maybe talk to the host, right? Whereas on Google or Facebook, it's like, hey, you're supporting like a small business when you go out and leave that review. So what I've noticed is we get both, and at least in this short span, we've got good reviews after from the same people as well. We've never had a 5-star turn to a lower star, I guess.
Yeah, no, I also like the idea of I'm kind of incentivizing the reviews, right? Like just because it's that little extra. That again, you said it's not that much money, but I think I'm sure your percentage is high of reviews versus just, hey, please review us, right? How was your stay? It's just like a reason for them to take the time, right? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right, and we get tons of reviews on Airbnb, but you know that's just going to get our bookings up. Right? It's just going to keep our bookings doing well. And for our business, you know, we want other owners, other investors to understand that people have this experience with us, right? Obviously, those other reviews with the clients are the best, but having that other like peppered in, like just adding the social proof of it is really nice. Like, oh, okay, there's 38 total reviews here. Only 2 are from other investors, but still, that means other people had such a good experience with this brand that they left this review. Cool. Good to know.
Yeah. No, I think it's human nature. You want to have that vetted. Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah. It's a good idea. Yeah. I just finished my course, and in the end, I'm like, and ask for a review, because I think people they don't think about that, and just doing it like while it's fresh versus like, you know, you kind of forget that checklist when someone moves out. And I kind of do the welcome basket for that. I like put a bottle of wine and chocolate and kind of like what you do in an Airbnb, because I want to set the experience, and I'm hoping like it'll help me, you know, with the review down the road, right? Like I went the extra mile.
Right. No, totally.
Yeah. No, and I started to buy these. There's this company called Saxcloth and Ashes. They do these like super cool washable blankets. They kind of have a little bit of a Pendleton vibe. And for every blanket that's purchased, they'll donate one to a homeless shelter. So it's like a great cause. It's like a really nice welcome gift. It's a way to kind of give back. And for an Airbnb, right? Not ever, but my turnovers are so few, but it's like well worth it. It's like a marketing expense, and I think people appreciate it. And it's kind of my way of giving back. So I like to do more things like that. Yeah,
that's my favorite part in the business too, is the giftology behind like the stay experience. Like, hey, we understand it's more than just the home itself. Right?
Yeah,
it's what goes in it too, and like we're gonna give you that time, that attention. Yeah. Like if they give us a note, I really try and like play off of it, right? Like we had a wedding guest, and then we left like rose petals up to their welcome gift, which was charcuterie and champagne.
Oh, that's awesome.
Instead of just the welcome bag that we typically do with
right,
like popcorn and goodies.
Yeah, and then it's kind of Instagram worthy, right?
Right, and that's an added like, oh, you know, if that happens too, great. If not, like the review is also awesome.
Yeah.
Or if there was a bad experience, now we avoided a bad review, right?
Right. It buys you. Yeah, I think it buys you a little bit of like.
Gives you layers of opportunities to like like an Instagram post, 5-star review, something small came up and they didn't care.
You didn't care because you kind of like went the extra mile, so you bought yourself a little bit. Like you clearly care. You're not like a jerk that didn't notice the doorknob was loose or something. Yeah, no, I do that. It's very intentional, right? There's so many reasons why. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, no, I love it. It's good tips.
Yeah, seriously, no, I feel like if you're listening to this right now and you're looking for midterm or short-term advice, we dropped some pretty good knowledge bombs, I would say, because I probably picked up at least 5 or 6 to-do items that I wrote down on the side to look into that you said.
Yeah, same.
But I think good way to end it, and how I end like all of my interviews, is like, what are you looking for specifically like right now, and where could people get a hold of you if they had said thing?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I mean, I'm always looking, you know, for deals. I'm a huge fan of creative owner financing. That's kind of what my sweet spot. I guess in general, also just to do a shout out, if it's okay. I launched a midterm rental course, so it's pretty much done. I haven't super marketed it, but I am, you know, offering that now. So that's kind of fun. And so anyway, also just if anyone is looking for someone to speak on midterms, I love to talk about it. So I'm more than happy to present on it, you know, to share what I've learned kind of over the years. And on social, my handle is Shona Lepis Houses.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'll link everything, your socials and the course in the description of this video. So if anyone's listening and wants to do it, links in the description. And if anyone's got a boutique hotel or creative deal that they want to run by Shona,
yeah, definitely
hit her up on social as well. Potentially hit me up too for some of those. If it's a Forest Grove area, you know, throw it my way. If it's more towards Portland, throw it her side.
Perfect.
But no, thank you for coming on. I think this was a really cool video, good conversation about short-term and midterm rentals.
Love it. Lots of good tips.
Yeah.
Awesome.